Get ready to get sticky. Sticky Situations is sponsored by Corona Crush. Corona Crush is creating Jewish couples always. Join the Facebook group. Just search Corona Crush and look out for virtual speed dating events happening every other week. They're 100% free and 100% Jewish. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Sticky Situations. I'm your host, Rachel, which obviously you already know because I'm unforgettable. Everyone, right now, whatever platform you're listening on, if you are not already subscribed or following, go hit that follow or subscribe button. If your platform allows for it, give us a 5-star rating and a glowing review. Nice reviews only, please. Go like Sticky Situations page on Facebook, follow Sticky Situations Pod on Instagram, follow Sticky Situations Pod on TikTok. As long as TikTok's not banned, it's going to be a problem for me if it is banned by the time you're listening to this. So maybe check in on me if it is banned, but hopefully it's not, and go follow on the TikTok. If you would like to be a guest on my podcast, I'm actively always recruiting for more guests. So if you want to be a guest, if you have a friend who you want as a guest, if your parents have crazy stories, grandparents, aunts, uncles, anything, send them my way. I want anybody and everybody's stories. So big plug to come on as a guest on the podcast. Same goes for if you would like to date any of my single guests. You can, I forgot to say with the being a guest on the podcast, there are applications in my Corona Crush posts and there are applications in the socials, but you could just send me a DM on Instagram, again, at Sticky Situations Pod, or send me an email at stickysituationspod@gmail.com. And again, same goes if you want to date for any of my single guests. I'd love to try to make that happen for you. But yeah. Okay. So I have an extra special guest today. And hopefully this will be a fun episode. So let's get right into it. Everyone, please welcome my friend Gabi. Gabi, welcome to the podcast. I'm going to let you give a little introduction for yourself so you can tell my listeners who you are and what you do.
Hey, so first of all, Rachel, what's up? This is really exciting for me, and I'm so glad to be on your podcast right now. I am
Excited to
Gabi
have you here.
Koyenov. Yeah, it's great to be here. And your audience already I'm already liking them just because of how bubbly you are. And like if they're if they're
Thank
listening to
you.
you, I feel like it's good company.
Thank you.
Yeah, of course. So I'm Gabi Koyenov. I have a podcast called the Gabi Koyenov Podcast where I interview very interesting people. And it's a fun project. And I am also a therapist, and I started a private practice called the Men's Therapy Studio. So I am trying to now use my podcast to help promote my private practice. And yeah, it's a lot of fun. It's been good.
Yeah, and so I will put in the episode description, I'll put a link to Gabi's podcast so you guys can listen. I did record an episode with Gabi. I don't think it's been released
Yeah.
yet, but maybe by the time this episode is released, my episode on his podcast will be out. I said
Yeah.
some really interesting things. We recorded it a little while ago, but
Yeah.
probably stuff you already heard me say, but in a more serious type of
Yeah.
context.
It was a really
So,
great episode. I'm excited to put it out. Yeah.
yeah, I'm excited to hear
There's a
it.
really, I don't know, I'm curious to hear from you, and I know we're probably going to go in a different direction in this episode, but like, it's been such a struggle to be consistent with the editing and put stuff out, juggling that with the job and life.
Yeah, so as my listeners know, I started out this podcast as a once a week podcast,
Mm.
and you guys should know, I have sponsors, but this isn't my full-time job.
Right.
It's not even close to that. It's just something I do for fun on the
Yeah.
side. I think it brings me joy, and I've heard other people that they enjoy it. So I like doing it and I like helping other people. So, but that being said, so I started this podcast, it was once a week, and then I got a more demanding job. And so I switched to every other week because that's all I could handle.
Mm.
And whenever I feel like it's too much or if I have too much other stuff going on, I take a break. And my listeners know, sometimes I'll take a month or two off. But yeah, it life gets busy and everything, and it's definitely something that I have to make time for and prioritize in my life. But I always wanted to feel like it's fun and not a job because at the end of the day, I do this for fun.
Right. And that's so awesome. And I'm glad you're doing it because you have such a great personality for it. So it'd be a shame not to.
Thank you. I enjoy your podcast too, and I have been listening. So
Oh, really? Thank you. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. I'm a few episodes behind, but I was listening definitely before I came on I I think being a podcaster, I like when people come on the podcast and have listened to some episodes, they
Mm.
get the gist.
Right.
So that's what I like also. Plus, I like supporting other podcasters. I try to when I can. I listen to a lot of podcasts. You guys should just know my Spotify Wrapped was 126,031 minutes this year. This year being 2024, and I want to say 60 some thousand of that was podcasts. So
Wow.
yeah.
That's really cool.
Okay,
Yeah.
we're digressing, but okay. So Gabi, before we get into your stories, can you just tell my listeners some basic information? Your age, location, relationship status, and religious denomination.
Great questions. I'm 27, going to turn 28. And I live in Queens, in Kew Garden Hills, which is fun. My religious status, I'm avoiding this question. I grew up Orthodox and then like Orthodox traditional, Bukharian family, and then joined a yeshiva called Chafetz Chaim. I was there for like 10 to 15 years, something like that. And then I've relaxed pretty heavily. And I would say more than relaxed, I think I've like evolved beyond it. So that's maybe how I would put it. Uh, yeah, yeah. And then what was the other my relationship status?
Relationship status.
Yeah, so I'm married and I have a like the most amazing, beautiful baby girl in the entire world.
Aw.
Yeah.
So, okay, it'll be really interesting to hear your stories then because it just shows my listeners that even after all the crazy, there's still happy endings. So,
First of all, yes, and I'm I'm so happy to actually like say this story. And the shidduch system is like my enemy, so I'm so happy to like be on this podcast. Like so many years later, I still feel the need to like rail on the shidduch system. You know?
honestly, I don't blame you.
Yeah.
I think I will, even like God willing, once I settle down with somebody, like I will still tell all my bad stories. Not really shit off
Yeah.
system, but like from dating and all of these like other means, sometimes shotguns, why you connects. I will always hate on why you connects. Like
Yeah.
that will always be a consistent in my
Right.
life.
Right.
Okay, so wait, let's get into your stories. I'm excited.
But yeah, sure. Where should I start? Should I start with my marriage story?
If you want to, wherever
Yeah,
it's
so
up to you.
yeah, no problem. I'll get into it. So I was in a very yeshivish yeshiva, and I guess as far as like yeshivas go, Chofetz Chaim is not considered the most yeshivish, but it's yeshivish. It's pretty like intense, I would say, from like a more secular, grounded perspective. Like the lifestyle is very wild. Just for example, people will date 10 times and then get engaged, like between 10 to 20. And as far as like yeshivish places go, some places will only date like 3 to 5 times, you know, before they you're expected to like propose. So that was the kind of system that I was in. This expectation
Wow.
to meet somebody, do it very fast without really knowing them. And it's just this very superficial based system because it's always boiled down to like resumes and pieces of paper. And a lot of it has to do with just like who you know. And if the rabbi has a certain impression of you, like they're going to recommend certain people and then they won't recommend other people. So there's just like a lot of gatekeepers. There's a lot of superficiality and just like the speed and pressure. And it's impossible to feel like you're really connecting with anyone. So that was kind of like the landscape of where I was in at the time. And decided to start dating maybe like 23 and a half, which I guess is considered normal. And when I say date, like what I mean is like you're giving these people like shadchanim and rabbis pieces of paper with basic information of you, and then they're supposed to like find somebody for you based on that somehow, magically. And so so I did that and it was just a horrible experience because I everyone I dated, it just wasn't a match and it was pretty much right away. Like there were a few people that I dated that we went out more than one time, but most of the girls that I went out with, I would say I probably went out with about 30 girls. Um, it was like the first date immediately I kind of like I didn't feel the vibe, she didn't feel the vibe, and it was kind of just like, the led nowhere. And so I was really miserable and heartbroken and kind of felt very lonely because there was no human connection. Everything was so fast and just slipped away. And even if there was some type of connection, like say there was this one girl that I dated that I thought she was a really amazing girl, and we went out 6 times. I really enjoyed her company, but I didn't feel like we were gonna get married. And I just, for whatever reasons, we could get into it, but I didn't feel like we were gonna get married, and it's just so sad. I cut that person off, and I know that that person was heartbroken, and it was just unfortunate. And it's like, why couldn't we be friends? Why couldn't we have some type of middle ground where maybe we'd be in a relationship? But like the pressure, the intense pressure to like, you could only be talking to this person if you're going to marry them. And then if you're not, like you're kind of like leading them on. It's just kind of, it felt very dehumanizing, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that was my experience. Basically, 2.5 years into that dating experience, I was like, okay, I'm done with this. This is like really not for me. So I downloaded Hinge and I was on Hinge for a while. And I really was kind of having religious struggles at the same time. I don't know if I could open up about that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
please.
yeah.
Whatever. I mean, whatever you're comfortable
Yeah,
sharing.
sure. Yeah.
Um, yeah.
Right. So I was having religious struggles at the time too, like kind of bitter, not about the yeshiva experience that I had, because honestly, even still today, I'm extremely grateful for my yeshiva, like my experience in yeshiva. Like to me, I kind of compare it to being in a monastery, which is really cool. Yeah, it was like all day trying to get closer to God and like meditating on that and like learning. And again, like I don't know that that's necessarily everyone's perspective that's in yeshiva. You know, I think a lot of people are kind of just there because that's the culture they're a part of. But to me, that's what it was like. And it was literally like I was in a monastery, like from morning to night, meditating on these kind of like deep questions. So it was a really esoteric, beautiful experience that I enjoyed. But to me, where it comes across as the most cultish, like to me, there's a lot of people will say a yeshiva system is a cult. To me, the only place where I see it kind of being a cult is with regards to dating. There's so much control on young people's lives on who they could talk to and who they could have relationships with. And there's so many gatekeepers. And I think like the fear of these people on the more right wing side of the religious aisle, where it's like they can't even talk to a boy or a girl at a wedding for fear of like a rabbi or shotgun's going to see them, and like they're like, oh, they're going to be labeled as like a troublemaker or not a person, or and not get shidduchim. You know what I mean? Like that's the level
Yeah.
that I'm talking about. Yeah.
Yeah,
And
I
it's
mean,
really crazy. Yeah, go
I
ahead.
don't know it firsthand, but I've definitely had guests and friends who have been in
Right.
more yeshivish systems. And especially, it's interesting hearing from a guy's point of view because I mostly only heard it from the girl's side. It's
Mm.
like one wrong move on the girl's side, and like their shidduch prospects are done for. Like someone,
Exactly,
like you
right?
said, someone's gonna see, and it's like they're never gonna get a shidduch. And yeah,
Yeah.
that'd be bad for me because I say a lot. I talk a lot of crap.
Yeah, exactly, right? And it's like it's funny, even if that's never expressed, people legitimately feel that. People fear that. And it comes down to the silliest things. Like, I hope my parents don't get divorced this month before I get a shit. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's like the
Yeah.
level of like really big decisions that get put off or changed based on literally the perception of a shidduch match. And it's like that to me is like when I think about like if this system is a cult, that to me is what makes me feel like it would be a cult, you know? And it wasn't always this way. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, Jews have been using matchmakers for as
Right.
long as time. Like,
Right.
I don't know, I'm sure there are matchmakers in Tanakh, definitely back in Europe, and I'm sure also in like the Sephardi countries,
Yeah.
like Middle Eastern countries. Like everyone used a matchmaker, but I don't think it
100%.
was like so regimented with like the
Exactly.
resumes and
Right.
everything.
The
And it's
resumes, the
literally people's
pressure. Yeah.
jobs. Like,
Exactly, right? It used to be back in the day. I'm talking about in the same yeshivish and Hasidish communities. We're talking about like 50, 60 years ago. People, single guys and girls talked at weddings and like shidduchim were made, and that was normal. In extreme Orthodox, like what we would consider Haredi today, 60 years ago looked totally different with regards to this. I was like, this is kind of what scares me. It honestly does scare me about the experience. But anyways, basically, I was really bitter about that, about my whole experience being in the shidduch system. So I downloaded Hinge, and I was having a tough time, and I decided I was like, you know what? Let me talk to for my religious struggle that I was going with at the time. I was like, let me talk to the Rosh Hashiva, the Rabbi Grumblot. Let me just tell him kind of what's going on and how I feel. And the reason I did that was because even though I felt clear in my consciousness and my heart, I kind of just had this like maybe like one thought, like, what if I just, what if when I go up to heaven or whatever and I talk to God and he'll be like, Gabi, you know what? You're true. What you're saying is true. You did have confidence and clarity in your heart, but you didn't even talk to the Rosh Hashiva. Like, why didn't you do that? You know what I mean? Like, and I know that that's kind of like maybe I'm not recommending people think like that because that is not necessarily the right path to go. But that was a thought that came into my mind, and I was like, you know what? Just for my own consciousness and clarity, let me just do this, and then I'll really feel like clear. Like, okay, now I really feel like I tried it, and this is how I feel. So basically, I talked to him, and for a lot of it, we did have somewhat of a deep conversation that I don't want to get into. For honestly, like he shared some interesting stuff with me and stuff, and I don't want to talk about other people's personal stuff, but like a lot of it was also a generic kind of conversation of like, oh, Gabi, people date for 10 years and then all of a sudden this one time they find the perfect person and they live happily ever after, that kind of like garbage. And I was like, it really bothered me because I was like, I'm literally miserable for the past 2.5 years. I've been really in a tough spot because I'm in my early 20s, and this is the time where you're supposed to kind of really develop relationships and significant relationships. And to me, it's like something that I really wanted that just kept feeling like was impossible in the system that I was in. Like it felt like things were literally working against me. And I could explain some like what those things were that I felt I had maybe an unfair, I was starting with an unfair position.
Sure.
Yeah, but basically I was like, I'm literally miserable for 2 years. You're suggesting that I continue this way because maybe one day magically like things will work out. So I kind of like told him that in maybe a little more respectful, nicer way. And he's like, Gabi, listen, why don't you just give it like one more month? Just give it one more month and see what happens. So I was like, okay, fine. You know what? The rabbi told me one more month. Let me just do one more month, and then that will be my thing. So basically, I really big shout out to the Rebbitzins retreat, and it just I'm gonna explain how it's relevant. But basically, huge shout out to the Rebbitzins retreat. They were the one
Sure.
thing, yeah, they were really the one thing that through the whole process actually gave me hope because they did something different. It wasn't just a singles event. It wasn't with like almost like the arrogant position of like the shadchanim know best or the rabbis know best. Like they really were like, okay, let's put a bunch of mature, responsible singles together and do Shabbos meals. And it's very expensive what they do, and they put in a lot of money. So really grateful to everyone that donates to them, of course, as well. But basically, what happened was I was going to these events, and one of the shadchanim from the event sent me the scroll's resume, and so this is a funny story. I got a resume and I wasn't gonna go out with her because the picture that they sent me was really pixelated and it looked like she had a cross eye, like from the picture,
Oh.
you know? Yeah. It looked like she had a bad cross eye. And I was like, I'm not going out with this girl. Like, you know what I mean? So basically, I was giving my coworker a ride back home from work, a friend of mine, and I was like, "Oh, what are you doing for Shabbos?" And he tells me, "I'm eating by my father-in-law's brother." So I was like, oh, what's his name? He tells me his name. And I was like, oh, that's so weird. I just got a resume of a girl with that last name. Is that any relation? And he's like, oh, yeah, that's actually his daughter. I was like, really interesting. Like, can you tell me about her? And he tells me about her. And I was like, you know what? Interesting. Like, let me just give it a shot. It was my coworker's cousin. So it was kind of like just somebody vouching for it. So I was like, let me give it a shot. And then honestly, the first date, I did have some hesitations, but literally after our first date, I called my parents and I was like, because they go to Florida for Jewish winter, the classic Jewish
Yeah.
migration pattern. Anyways, but basically, I called my parents. I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna marry this girl. And then we ended up dating, and it went really well. And I had some hesitations, of course, but like eventually, after a normal point, I felt really confident, and I did propose, and then we did get married. And it's like it literally almost didn't happen. You know what I mean? It was like so close to not happening. And it was literally only because of what this rabbi said to me and because of my friend that I was like, I'll give it a shot. So it's kind of really cheesy to just be another one of those stories, honestly, Loki. But but that is what happened.
No, that's like honestly, it's it means also, I don't know, I guess sometimes when an opportunity comes and for some reason you say no, if it's meant to be, it will be.
Mm.
Which is kind of like what your story reminds me of, which is crazy that it's like you were gonna say no, and then all of a sudden, like it just like happened.
What a bizarre coincidence, right? Like
Yeah,
that I got this resume of this girl that is like related to my coworker, and that I was
yeah,
giving him like normally he has his own car. I normally don't give him a ride back. You know what I mean? We wouldn't have had
yeah,
that conversation.
yeah.
It's bizarre. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
mean, listen, I don't really believe in coincidences.
Mm. Yeah, me neither,
I
really.
I either believe in people like pursuing things to make it
Mm.
happen, or like sometimes you can see God's hand in things.
Hmm.
And like, listen, I'm sure if you said no or you didn't give a coworker the ride, if like you were meant to marry her, like
Yeah.
you would, it would happen.
It would have happened. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but it is crazy.
So crazy, right? It's so
Yeah.
bizarre. Literally, I think about that and I'm like, and then my daughter was born. Thankfully, we're very lucky. My wife got pregnant right away, and like we had a baby. And I think about that and I'm like, all those things literally almost didn't happen. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
I agree with you. Like, I don't believe in coincidences, but when I think about like the bizarre nature of like how all these little things played out that seemingly made the difference, it literally almost didn't happen. Literally, you
Yeah.
know?
Did you tell her on the date that you almost said no to her because you thought she had a cross eye?
Yeah, yeah.
And what did she say?
It was so funny. She just like laughs about it. She hates it when I tell that story, Loki.
Oh,
But
well,
yeah,
tell her that I'm sorry that it came up on the podcast.
nah, don't worry. It's an
But
important story, honestly. So I do share it.
yeah,
But yeah,
but we're glad that it happened.
I'm so glad it happened. Literally.
Yeah. And it's
Yeah.
funny listening to you talk. I have so many different guests on this podcast and so many different types of guests. So it's funny because you like speak so highly of the Rebbitzins retreat. I've definitely had some guests on and friends like who speak the opposite way,
That's
but
so
it's
funny.
funny. It's like
Yeah.
different things work for different people and
Right.
everyone has different experiences and it's always interesting. That's why I like talking to different people.
Yeah, 100%. And it doesn't it's such a good point, and that's so fair that you're making. Different things work for different people. And I'm not even saying like the shidduch system, especially in the yeshivish world, I'm not saying like it needs to be abolished or necessarily even changed. I'm just saying that we need more options. You know what I mean? And especially for
Yeah.
singles. Yeah, and people literally suffer, and especially the cultural perception of older singles that like they're still they're still almost viewed as children. They're not really a part of the like it seems very often that they're feeling left behind. They're feeling like they're not really a part of the community. And it's so sad. Like we need to be more tolerant. We need to be more inclusive, and understand and respect people's experiences. And sometimes even a person's an older single and it doesn't mean there's anything wrong with them. Like one of my best friends, literally he's my age. He's a little bit older than me by like a month or two, but he doesn't even want to start dating. And like people always ask him that. I ask him that too, just to like make fun of him and try to like set him up. But like he doesn't even want to be dating, And it's just like
Yeah.
the pressure for everyone so young. Like you talk about it, like he's 27, like basically 28. Oh, no, I'm sorry, he is 28 already. He's 28, and like that's so young. But in the perception of like the Jewish, especially religious world, like 28, like, oh, you're so old. Like, what's wrong? Why don't you want to date? Like, what's wrong with you? Why don't you want to get
Yeah.
married? It's bizarre.
Yeah, it's especially even more so for girls, like or
Mm,
for women, it's if you're 28 and single, like you're already an older single. I was having a conversation with
right.
my friend about this. Actually, yesterday we were talking about
Mm,
it. My friend is 27, I'm 31. Um, our whole friend group is like somewhere in between those ages. And we were talking about because one of her closer friends, someone I'm friendly with, but she's like better friends with, just got engaged, and we were talking about like she said at the engagement party like the bride, she's so happy and everything, and she's like, oh, don't worry, I went through my struggles. And I kind of laughed. I'm like, okay, but she's 27. Like when I
mm.
was 27, I also thought I went through my struggles, but like now between 27 to 31, it's like what was I even struggling with at 27? But yeah, it's just our community kind of sucks and it's not even the yeshivish world, because
Mm,
I know the yeshivish world sucks when it comes to this stuff, but even the modern Orthodox world, like I
mm,
constantly talk to my friends about this because I'm 31. My friends range between probably 27 to like 34.
mm.
And a lot of us are just like, okay, like what's the point of even being religious? Like there's nowhere for us in this community. Like
Yeah.
we do live in a community of modern Orthodox singles.
Mm.
So like our community is a real place for us. But even like people who talk about our community look down on it because they're like, oh yeah, it's not a real community. Or when I go home, and it really is a problem because like
Yeah.
I mean I can tell you personally, like, why do I want to be part of this community when I'm not accepted in it?
Isn't that so horrible? It's so
Yeah.
crazy. Yeah.
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 And I don't know, I'm more likely to become less religious than to just settle on a guy because I want to be married.
100%. I don't even know what needs to be done to help this and resolve this, but it's just such
Yeah.
a cult like embedded in people's perception. How do we change that?
I don't know.
Yeah.
This is like so for my listeners, we definitely talked about this a little bit, or probably a lot of it on Gabi's podcast. But I don't know. It's like something that I'm very passionate about, but also something that I really like, something I want to fix, but I and want to help with, but I don't know how to.
Mm. Hmm.
So yeah, it's a tough spot, but also I don't know. Like you said, I think we need to open the floor to like other ways of people meeting. And I think all of these separated, I mean, again, I'm pretty modern, so like I don't really come across separate situations so much. But I actually had one of my rabbis in seminary, and again, I went to a modern Orthodox seminary. They were
Mm,
not discouraging us from talking to guys, like nothing like that of the sort.
mm,
But he gave a whole shir about um or one of his classes one night. I can't even remember when he was talking about it. I just remember him talking about like separate seating at weddings is is like a huge factor in the shidduch crisis, kind of like what you were saying with
yeah.
separate seating at weddings. And like I have met guys at weddings. My
Right.
friends have met guys at weddings. Like, I mean, obviously for me, nothing went anywhere, but like I have friends who got married to guys that they met at weddings. Weddings
Mm,
are like the perfect time to meet because I don't know, we're all like the bride's friends might not know
mm,
the groom's friends or like random cousins or
mm,
anyone. So,
mm.
yeah, I agree with you. I think it's important any types of functions like that, but where it's also casual to just like, oh yeah, we're sitting at a table. It's not like a forced. I feel like
Yeah.
these events are like so forced
Mm.
where you have to sit together and talk and like everyone knows why you're there. But at a wedding, it's like it's chill. It's like
Right.
okay, like I'm
Mm,
on bridesmaid duty, so I'm running back and forth, but also
mm.
like, oh, that guy's cute. Like maybe I'll
Yeah.
talk to him.
You bring up an interesting point about the singles events. Like it kind of takes away the mystery and like the seduction of it because it's kind of like, okay, everyone knows why you're here. It's a pro and a con for sure, you know?
Yeah, I mean, listen, I do appreciate a situation where everyone is very intentional.
Hmm.
Because like I'm a straight shooter. Like if we're
Hmm.
here for something, we're here for something.
Yeah.
But also sometimes that pressure can really get to people's heads.
Hmm. Yeah.
Like even I was at an event not even that long ago, and it's just like basically they had it where they like made you had to fill out a survey or something before, and at the end of the night you were matched with someone,
Mm,
and then they would send texts throughout the night, and you were put into groups, and the groups kept getting smaller and smaller, and you had to like talk to people in the room to see who else was in your group. And like
mm,
I just remember I was like trying to find my group and I found one guy who was in my group and like he was fine. It was obvious that we weren't a match, but we were having like an okay conversation. Also, like
right.
I didn't know where my group was, and neither did he. Like we didn't know where the rest of our group was. But
Mm,
like our conversation was fine, even though neither of us were interested. But then
mm.
it's just like awkward, and he's like, "Okay, like I don't like I have to go over there," and I'm like, "It's fine. You don't have to be interested in me." But like because that situation, it's like I don't know. It just was like weird and awkward.
Yeah. I
It's
totally
like
feel that.
in a normal situation we would continue talking because there's no pressure. It
Mm,
wouldn't be assumed that oh like maybe I want to date you and like we could
hmm,
just
hmm. Like
talk
that,
like
that's
two
already the
normal people.
connotation. Right.
Yeah, we could just talk like two normal people. Like we're talking about work or something.
Right.
Like
Yeah.
nothing so spicy.
I think a lot of people get caught up in the social norms and standards. And a lot of it has to do with the vibe the guy gives off. I know I'm probably being a little misogynistic here, but like, um, I think a lot of guys have an issue where they don't want to be seen as like weird or predatory or like, socially off. Like I feel like there's like big stakes on them for that. Like at the same time, like if a guy just comes across and he's like just chill and it's good and he's giving off a friendly vibe and conversation, like yeah, maybe we'll do it, maybe not. Um, it makes a big difference on how if the girl I feel will be comfortable. And obviously like a girl can do the same. I've definitely talked to girls where like their vibe and their attitude create a whole different atmosphere for me. But speaking from a guy's perspective and with like my traditional kind of like view on it, it's like really the man's responsibility to make the girl comfortable and create a good vibe where she's not feeling pressure and is at ease and having a good time, you know?
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like it goes back to even like the worst a girl could do is just like not be interested. And like with girls, like if a guy's making them feel uncomfortable, like if a girl's making a guy feel uncomfortable, chances are it's just like she's giving off a vibe that she's interested and he's not. But if
Mm,
a guy is making a girl feel uncomfortable, it's not even just that he might be interested and she's not. Like sometimes like and I've been in situations where like I'm so uncomfortable by a guy
yeah.
and maybe unsafe is the wrong word because like
Hmm.
sometimes I don't think they're going to physically harm me,
Right.
but I just don't feel the discomfort is more than like an awkwardness.
Yeah, I get what you're saying. What would cause a situation like that for you?
For me, like to feel
Yeah.
unsafe
To feel like
or
more than just uncomfortable, you know?
more than just uncomfortable. Um, it's really hard for me to say, like, because a lot of the way I feel isn't really something that someone does. It's a vibe that I get off of a person.
Mm, hmm.
Like, I'm pretty decent at reading people's vibes.
Hmm.
Like, some people, I just can't explain it. They make me uncomfortable.
Interesting. Yeah. Yeah.
Like, certain, even like in my community, like, there are guys around here, they haven't done anything that I know of. They haven't done anything to me, but I get an uncomfortable vibe from them. And it's like, I don't want to be anywhere close to them. I would never
Mm,
want to be alone with them. Like,
mm.
it's hard.
It's
It's
just a
hard to
vibe.
say. It's just,
Yeah.
it's mostly a vibe, but it could also be if a guy's being too pushy.
Mm,
Um,
hmm.
if I'm clearly saying I'm not interested or showing I'm not interested, and he keeps pushing,
Mm.
like, I was at an event once and I've talked about this, and some guy like backed me into a corner. He was probably
Seriously?
like, yeah, he was probably like at least 10 to 15 years older than me, probably
Mm.
older. And he was like, "Oh, let's exchange phone numbers. Like, what's your name? I'll add you on Facebook and all of this and that." And I was like, "I need to get away from you." Like, I was just so physically uncomfortable. And also, like, I don't want to give you my information.
Mm.
So I don't, like, he didn't have me like trapped, but I was just like, he like cornered me. And I'm like, okay, I need to go find my friend. Bye.
Mm.
But also, like, I'm not afraid of being rude. Some girls are afraid of like coming off as rude, so they'll continue talking and being uncomfortable. I physically cannot stay in a situation where I'm uncomfortable.
Mm. I get that. I get
And
that.
like
Yeah, for sure.
my friends know that. Like even if we're at like a party or something, like last night my friends wanted to go. Someone was having like a small party in their apartment. We're recording, it's Hanukkah. You guys will be listening to this way after Hanukkah. But it was Christmas and Hanukkah last night. So one of the guys in my community was having like a party in his apartment, and we went, and immediately I was just like, there are too many people in here. I'm hot and like it's too loud. I'm like, I don't want to be here. And eventually we were like gonna leave and my friends were taking forever, and I literally just I texted them, I'm like, I'm leaving, bye. And like they ended
Mm.
up leaving like a minute after me and I ended up walking with them, but like I just physically cannot be in a situation where I'm uncomfortable.
Mm, hmm. Yeah, it's good that you listen to yourself and can trust yourself like that and leave the situation. I'm curious, like, what do you think can be done for somebody to make you comfortable? Like, what for you makes you feel comfortable when you're with a guy? And I know that it might just be like a vibe, but I'm curious if there's any like tangible pieces of advice you could give your audience.
Um, there's definitely a vibe.
Hmm,
Um, and I don't know, I think when a guy, you can tell when a guy is aware of like how he's
hmm,
coming across and making sure that he is being respectful or um make like I can tell when he is aware of my comfort levels.
hmm, hmm.
So
Yeah,
I mean, thank God I haven't been in so many situations where like a guy has made me physically uncomfortable,
right,
like that. Like at that event, that was one example. Like I can't, off
right.
the top of my head, I can't even think of any other examples. And like I met a lot of guys. Like I live in a very social community. I've dated a lot. I mean, I'm 31. I've dated a lot of guys. Like even like podcast guests. Like I've had so many I think I had one podcast guest that made me uncomfortable,
Hmm.
but we recorded on Zoom, so I was like, and I knew he was gonna make me uncomfortable before we even
Yeah,
started recording. Like, I just I'm not gonna say what episode it was or whatever.
sure.
It was a while back,
Mhm.
like
Not
years.
this episode right here.
No, no, definitely not. No, and I just remember I'm usually if I record on Zoom, it's fine. If I
Mm,
record in person with people, I always have other people. I also like put precautions in place for myself to be comfortable. Like
right.
if I record in person with a guy, there's always someone else there. Like
Hmm.
that's just like even guys who I'm friends with, like there's always somebody else there. Um But yeah, even in that Zoom recording, I made sure my friend was there because the guy kind of like, even before we started talking, like I knew he gave off like a vibe that I didn't like.
Why'd you get him on the
Um,
pod?
um, I can't really tell you without telling
Okay.
like which podcast guest it was. It was a good episode. It was a great episode.
Hmm.
And I don't regret anything,
Yeah.
but I just like felt a little bit uncomfortable. So my friend was there. Like
Right.
she just sat in on recording, like she
Right.
would have if he had come in person.
Yeah, I feel you. Here's the thing also, I could ramble off like a bunch of pieces of advice on how to just be a good dater and like, in general, a lot of it just boils down to being a good person. But it's like so much to keep in mind for a lot of people. Like to me, there's just a lot of principles. Like you said, number one, be aware of how you're being perceived. Like if you're making somebody uncomfortable and you're being pushy, kind of like just following the golden rule. Like, what would you want to be done to you if you were in that situation? You know? And I get that sense. Like, I think a lot of guys, especially when they grow up very secluded and secular, they don't necessarily realize that, like, if I'm with this girl and she's kind of feeling backed against the wall, like that's not okay because maybe they've been backed against the wall by their friends and it hasn't been anything weird, And they don't necessarily pick up on the same sense that like a girl very often walks around with that like feeling of vulnerability of being weaker. And there might be an anxiety there that guys aren't in tune with. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Yeah.
100%. Um, it's hard for me to say because a lot of girls aren't like me.
Mm,
Like I wasn't always like me either. Like I will tell it like it is. I will always be honest. I will be straight up with someone. Like I will tell someone if something's making me uncomfortable. Well,
right.
maybe or on a date I'll just leave. Like, but so it's hard. I think if you act like a mensch and respectful and a good
Yeah.
person and listen to her,
Right.
try to read her body language.
Yeah.
Also, I think the thing is,
And girls too, by the way. I think it goes
yeah,
both
girls
ways.
too, for
But yeah.
sure.
Right.
I think also we can never assume what the other person's feeling
Mm,
because I've heard so many situations where like one perspective is like, "Oh yeah, I was like so into this person and they were also into me and all of this and
mm.
that."
And then yeah.
But sometimes people are just like really good at faking pleasantries.
Hmm.
And then yeah, I mean, I don't know. I've faked being not fake being into somebody, but like if I'm on a date with a guy, I can act pleasant for
Right.
an hour. I can act interested for an
Right.
hour.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean that I'm into him.
Mm,
It just means that I'm respectful enough to like be a decent date for an hour.
100%. Yeah.
Because I think when people start assuming what the other person's feeling, that's where it gets into like sticky territory.
Mm. Or sticky territory.
Sticky territory. But
No, but yeah, I totally agree,
yeah,
actually. Yeah.
yeah. Okay, let's take a quick break to hear a word from our sponsors before we continue. So we'll be right back. Sticky Situations is sponsored by Corona Crush. Are you tired of swiping on dating apps? Tired of guessing whether the cute guy or girl you keep seeing around is Jewish and or single? Then you need to run, not walk to join Corona Crush. Corona Crush is a Jewish organization working to create Jewish couples always. Corona Crush has over 30 confirmed engagements, over 22,000 members from all over the world, and has set up over 50,000 speed dates. Join the Corona Crush Facebook group and post yourself or have a friend post you and see who reaches out. Fill out the survey to sign up for virtual speed dating events happening every other week. Corona Crush is 100% free and 100% Jewish. Worst case, you end up with some stories of your own. Best case, you find the love of your life. Try it out today. Here on Sticky Situations, we tend to focus on bad dating stories, but sometimes dates do go well and lead to proposals and weddings. Who would have thought? And what do all of those require, you might be asking? Well, the answer is flowers. Who doesn't want flowers from someone they've been seeing? Don't forget, flower petals and bouquets needed for proposals. And that's even before all the flowers that go into weddings. Sticky Situations is sponsored by Primrose Flower Shop. In my opinion, Primrose is the coolest flower shop around and has the best customer service to fulfill all of your floral needs. Primrose offers a range of services from your basic bouquets to subscription services where you can get flowers delivered once a week. They deliver all over the tri-state area, including Manhattan. Primrose does weddings, bar and bat mitzvahs, and other simchas. I've personally been to a wedding where Primrose did the flowers, and the work they did was beyond gorgeous. Primrose additionally offers in-store proposals, including a romantic setup with candles and music. Primrose is located at 2922 Avenue M in Brooklyn, and the phone number is 929-376-9815. You can also follow Primrose on Instagram at PrimroseNY. So, if you can't get someone out of your head, buy them some flowers from Primrose. They'll either love it or they'll find you really creepy. But regardless, the flowers will be out of this world. Okay, everybody, we're back. Okay, Gabi, do you have more stories that you want to tell from before you met your wife?
Yes, I do. I have a story. Basically, okay, so this is actually I've never spoken about this on I think fully or whatever, and obviously I'm not going to share all the details, but for me, one of the things that was extremely hard for me, in addition to everything that I was going through, was I had this extremely unreasonable obsession with somebody. And I'm kind of like, it's, maybe like beating myself up and putting it like a little harder than it is. Yeah, but I really like this one girl, like very much like this girl. And I knew her for at that point, let's say it was something like 10 years. Just and I don't want to get into the exact way that I knew this person, but I didn't necessarily like know this person well. You know what I mean? Like I've been around them a lot and um, I've seen them speak and have spoken to them, of course, but like it wasn't like we were friends. Like I would go over to their Shabbos table and like I would schmooze with her all the time. It wasn't like that, it really was not. But over the years, just from like seeing this person around, I really developed a lot of feelings. And that made it very hard because it was just like I had this perception of like I wanted to be with this girl. And throughout my dating process, it was always just like whoever I dated needed to dethrone this girl. You know what I mean? And it kind of just put this extremely unrealistic expectation and standard in my head of like what was going on. But basically, eventually, here's the thing. I did actually go to this girl and tell her how I feel. And it was extremely productive conversation. Like I'm happy I did that and I'm happy. I spoke with her twice actually, but basically she told me she didn't want to date me. And it was really amicable. There was a couple of different reasons, but basically she told me she wasn't ready. She didn't want to date. And but at the same time, she told me like she really likes me as a person, and she thinks I'm very good looking, you know. But yeah, basically, I had to basically take the rejection, and it was so freaking hard for me. It was impossible for me because at the same time, like I think a lot of people have I think in the world at large, a lot of people can rebound, a lot of people can try a bunch of different options so that they can, move on and understand that there's a lot of fish in the sea. But for me, it literally was not like that because everyone that I dated, it wasn't like it always just felt like there was nothing here. And I'm literally just like, there are no other fish in the sea. Like this girl I met and it seemed like she was smart and funny and like we kind of like got along or whatever. In my head at least, because this was all kind of totally delusional. Honestly, like looking back at it in hindsight, it was all totally delusional. But at the end of the day, that was how I felt at the time. And it was so hard being in that system, not like feeling like I'm stuck, feeling like I don't have any other options. And then that would also like reinforce wanting to be with that person. So it's kind of like extremely screwed up. And yeah, I don't know. That's a lot.
And welcome. Yeah. Been there more than once.
100%, right? It's so hard,
it's hard
to get over the heartbreak. It was so difficult.
It's also like when you haven't actually dated the person, like it's interesting because like I had relationships in the past. So after I broke up with the guys I dated, like obviously the guys I dated after, I would compare to my ex-boyfriends in my head, but in my head there were always logical reasons why it didn't work with my ex-boyfriends. Like we broke up. Like there are reasons we dated and we broke up. But when it comes to somebody that you never actually dated, you hold it like you don't know the negatives about being in a relationship.
Exactly, yeah.
So like you hold them to such a pedestal.
Right.
That it's like it's so hard. Yeah, yeah, I've
That's
been
really
there.
why I'm calling it a delusion. Exactly, right? But that's really why I'm calling it a delusion because it was like I never dated this person. I have nothing to like
Mhm.
miss about this person. I have no reason to really think like there's no real connection. And look, maybe actually I'm realizing that as I say that, to me it helps me to call it a like for me it helps me to call it a delusion in a sense. But at the same time, it's maybe not fair for people that are going through that. Like I wouldn't necessarily say that they're delusional. Like they're heartbroken. They're really feeling an attachment that's there that unfortunately is not being reciprocated. And that is literally one of the most painful things that you could go through, especially for a young person. And it's like it's absurd. It feels so rejecting and heartbreaking and lonely and like people if you even tell people some people will just like literally tell you just get over it like how does that make any sense and like yeah sure you would love to flip that switch and get over it but it's not that simple and it's like I really want people to know that are listening to this like you're absolutely not alone and you're not crazy and it's so hard and it's tough and it takes a long time but there is light at the end of the tunnel
Yeah,
you know
I completely
yeah
agree.
right
I've talked about it on the podcast. Um,
yeah
I definitely talked about it a lot on episodes that might not have been released yet, but when you guys are listening to this, you'll hear it. Like my my past um crushes, I guess, for lack of a better term, but it's like deeper than a crush because
right
a crush you think about like, oh, in school, it's like, oh, I have a crush on that person. But this is like deeper. It's like I really liked this person. I thought there was a lot of potential,
right
but there was no actual chance given. So there's nothing to even have closure on.
that's the hardest part honestly like for me that was the hardest part like there was no chance given you know what I mean
Yeah.
yeah
Yeah, and I don't know, eventually you move on. I got over mine. I mean, one of them. One of them I unclear.
Yeah.
Um,
So I'll tell you,
but
honestly,
yeah.
I did move on, but what made me move on was finding my wife. Like, honestly, that's what made me move on. Oh, so this is the thing. Let's backtrack a little bit. Part of the reason that I was having my own religious struggle was also because of like how much better it literally made me feel. Like, I went to Texas and I was going to the honky tonks and I was dancing with a bunch of girls and I was doing all that stuff to really like try and like go beyond the shuttle system instead of being so limited. And it actually worked. It helped. You know what I mean? It actually
Yeah.
made me feel a lot better. You know what I mean? Like it was that sense of there is nothing else that really made it so much harder for me. And like, yeah, and like just the understanding of like if I go like this system is what's causing me to continue to feel this way. Like when I'm out, I feel so much better. Downloading Hinge was really helpful. It was honestly extremely helpful. Even though there's a lot of problems with Hinge and all that stuff, but it really did help me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Going to those bars, talking with people, to the clubs, all that stuff that I did, it really freaking helped. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah,
that's what got me out
because
of it. Yeah.
I mean, I've said this before. The only
Right.
way I think to actually fully get over someone is to
Right.
quote unquote get under someone new. It just for me
Yeah.
that means like
Yeah.
I interpreted that to mean you get some kind of feelings for someone else.
Right.
Like you think about someone else. Like I don't in my situation, whatever, like I think I was like over him by the time I started dating my ex-boyfriend, who I dated after like the guy I really liked who didn't want to date me. But I also it was like right before COVID too. And during COVID I talked to so many guys. Like I would just like swiped on dating apps and like I would be texting like 10 guys at a time. Like and like it helps when you're getting attention from someone else.
Yeah.
You're developing feelings for other people. And
Exactly.
even if they're superficial. Like some of the guys that I talked to during COVID, like I think the last episode, I think it was the last episode that we recorded. Like I mentioned, the guest like reached like a friend connected me to the guest, and he texted me, and like a whole text thread came up from like October 2020, and I was like, LOL, we talked for like a day. But yeah, I would talk to guys for like a couple days. Some of them I talked to for longer. Like it does help, and like I can
Yeah.
see your frustrations with the shit off system because like you don't have that outlet. Like when I
Right.
want male attention, I just swipe on dating apps and some guy will talk to me. Like some guy will
Right.
tell me I'm pretty. Some guy will like do whatever I need in that moment to
Right.
like validate my feelings even though the guy I want doesn't want to date me.
Yeah, exactly. But through that, you're able to forget about it because there's so many other
Mm-hmm.
people that you know that can give you that attention, and you could feel that kind of urge and that need being fulfilled. And that's really like an awesome thing to have. And it's just so sad that like that's considered, I don't know if evil is the right word, but that's considered like totally not okay. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, in the
Yeah,
yeshivish world.
right, exactly. In the yeshivish world. And I think people really suffer because of that. Like people do catch feelings and it's so hard. And it's like you dated that person 3 times, you caught a lot of feelings. They're putting their best foot forward, so you don't actually know who they are. And it's like you have this fantasy in your head. And it's really hard to like to detach from that, you
Yeah.
know? And to be even more real, honestly, like for me, I was having these feelings for probably like 3 years, let's say like a year before I started dating even. Maybe even 2 years before I was dating. And then literally for 2 years while I was dating, I was saying that I dated for 2.5 years. Once I started like kind of going off, I was really feeling a lot better. But then it really like once I met my wife, then I was totally okay. You know what I mean? Like that was really what got me out of it.
Yeah.
And yeah, thank God, because that was a really dark time, honestly, extremely dark time.
Yeah. No,
Yeah,
I can imagine. I mean, I know. Like like
yeah,
we all talk about it. Um it's hard to be in a system that you can't connect with, and that makes you feel like you're not like meant to be there or be a part of that community. But wait,
right.
I wanted to ask you more about your Hinge experience.
Sure, yeah,
Did
yeah.
you like go out with any girls from it, or did you just like have
Yeah,
it
it's
for
so
swiping
funny.
purposes?
Yeah, I had it for swiping purposes. I was going to go out with a girl or two, but then literally what happened was is that I got my wife's resume. As soon as I did, I deleted Hinge because I was like, I'm not gonna go on a shit up date while I have Hinge. So I just deleted it. So I wasn't really on Hinge for like such a long time, at that point. Like for me, before the Hinge experience, like I said, I was experimenting going to bars and I went to a few nightclubs and it was interesting. Nightclub is a very anxiety provoking situation. So strange. I'd love to talk about it because it's hilarious.
Yeah,
But yeah,
please.
right. But
I
especially
should
actually,
preface by telling you that I
sure.
don't think I've ever been to an actual nightclub. Um,
Yeah.
I went once. One of my friends is gay.
Hmm.
I don't even know if it was a gay club. I think it was just a bar that had a
Yeah.
clubby vibe. Like a
Uh-huh.
few of us went with him like one year during Pride, but like
Yeah.
I don't think I've been to a proper club. I've just been to like bars with clubby vibes.
That's
So
so funny.
just want to preface this before
Yeah.
you tell your story.
That's a great. No, that's a great preface. Here's what I'll say. I think a lot of people say that they like clubs. I don't think anybody likes a nightclub. It's loud. It's like packed. Everyone is like the only way to be socially with it in a nightclub is you'd have to be drunk or on drugs. There
Yeah.
like otherwise you're socially off. You know what I mean? Like you can't be that's literally the environment. And I think about that and the nightlife, let's include bars as well on the East Coast, or let's just say New York, maybe it's different in Florida, in Miami, but it's so much different from Texas, for example. Like in Texas, it's awesome. You go to these bars, it's normal to go up to a girl and ask her to dance. You cannot do that in a nightclub. I don't know like what the expectation is in a nightclub. Do you just like go up to a girl and start dancing and then hope she like joins you? Like you can't go up to a girl and ask like, "Hey, you want to dance?" Like I guess you could, but it's like not the most like normal thing. You go to a bar in Texas, like you could ask every girl in the bar like, "Hey, do you want to dance?" And it's totally normal. And you have a conversation with her while you're doing a two-step. You know what I
Oh
mean? And
wow.
like
So does that mean you know how to two-step?
yeah, I know how to two-step. It's awesome. It's a
That's
lot of fun.
cool.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. When I came back to New York, I took up salsa dancing, which was a lot of fun too. Um, but yeah, that was just for for like a hot minute. But anyways, basically, yeah, so I went to this club. This is hilarious. And I went with a friend who he took me both times to the two experiences that I went to a nightclub. He took me both times. Almost like both times, especially like the first time, he got so drunk and high that they had to Uber him back home. Like literally, I didn't
Oh
even know.
no.
People Ubered him and he was my ride. Like
Oh
I
no.
literally was left there. I was looking for him. I was like, what the heck happened to my friend? And then I'm like asking around, and people basically told me, like, oh, that guy, yeah, he passed out. Some people Ubered him back home. It's like, that's crazy. Yeah.
No,
So I was
that's
stuck there
crazy.
until like, yeah, it was awesome. I had a great night though. Um, I was stuck there until like 2 a.m. Eventually I got a ride back with somebody, but like, it was a lot of fun. It was like 1 second you'll go up to somebody and then they'll hug you and start crying, and then another person will just like I was having a conversation with this one girl and she like tried to kind of like hint to me that she wanted to go to the bathroom with me. Um, really bizarre. Yeah, really bizarre. Next thing, like a girl is like, get lost. I don't want to talk to you. You know what I mean? Another, like you'll get like, it's literally just a lot of like hit miss, like the craziest experiences. You know what I mean?
Oh.
Um, And then the second time I went, like very similar. One girl, like these two girls, they went for a birthday and they like I was just schmoozing with them, and then all of a sudden, like I meet them later at the club and they get me a shot and they put it in my mouth with a lime, and then they both start dancing with me. And then I'm walking around, I talk to this other girl, same thing. She's like, get lost. And then I talk to this other person and she just hugs me. She's like, oh, it's my birthday. I've been waiting for you my whole life. And like just starts crying, like really bizarre, you know? And it's like everyone is literally drunk and it's crazy. It's really crazy. So whatever, it's fun. I would just recommend, everyone should just do it just to try it if you're open to it, but it's very anxiety provoking. Like you go there and you feel like I don't know what to do here. You know what I mean? It's
Yeah.
really strange. Yeah. You could also be talking to one person 1 minute, 2 minutes later they're making out with someone else. Like that happens a lot. Yeah,
Wait, okay. I have a question about this.
sure.
So you said that since the shut off system wasn't working for you, like
Yeah.
this was kind of like your outlet, like going to these like bars and clubs. What made you jump to such because I mean, I would say each of those are on very different extreme sides of the spectrum. Like, what made you like just jump to like going to clubs instead of like going to like a modern Orthodox event?
You mean like a singles event?
Yeah, like to meet
Yeah.
people, blah, see, like, what stops you from like going and spending Shabbos like in a neighborhood like mine, where
Yeah.
even not a singles event, but like you could go talk to a girl at like it's not like talking to drunk girls in a club, but you could go talk to a
Right.
girl at Kiddush, and it's normal.
100%. Yeah. No, you're totally right. You're totally right. I wanted to. Basically, it was really such a short it was such a short time period where I was like a really good yeshiva boy. Like that was going on for the majority of the time. And then where I was like, I am so freaking miserable. Like something needs to change. You know what I mean? Like that was really
Yeah.
what happened. It was kind of like a snapping, and I really wish I did. I was talking with other friends that were totally not religious, and I was just trying to gauge like what would that look like, the OTD life, because that was like the direction that I seemed like I was going. And I was talking with a lot of friends that did move out, and they were like telling me like, yeah, Gali, you could do all these things, go to a Shabbos meal in the Upper West Side, see these other in Washington Heights, see what's going on. That's what I was gonna do. Um, and I was really just experimenting. Honestly, like I went to singles events that were more modern Orthodox leaning, still kind of to the right,
Mhm.
but yeah, that would have probably been the next step had I not gotten married. Like had I not gotten married, I probably would have been like, okay, I'm moving to the Upper West Side, trying to, see this lifestyle and, stuff like that. But I was so like burnt out. I was so done. Like I think it wasn't for me personally, it wasn't just the shit off system that was really burning me out. It was also this unrequited love, this crush for this girl. And it's just so sad. Literally, I'm telling you, this is the saddest thing. I genuinely like I look at that and I almost like feel bad for myself. I would literally go home at night, and this is the craziest thing. Your listeners, they don't know me, whatever. So let me just like say a bit more. At that time in my life, let's say like between 23 to 26, I had the best job ever. I was a school counselor. I'm sorry, 23 to 25. I was a school counselor. I literally had the best job. I would do these movie nights at my apartment with my nephews and nieces, and they would all come over, and I would get pizza, and it was awesome. It was so much fun. I used to do that probably like every 2 to 3 weeks, just at my pad, and we would hang out. I had a great job. The kids loved me. I would always come into school every day, and it was awesome. It felt like everyone wanted to talk to me. I was happy to be there. Kids were happy to see me. It was really amazing. Nobody could tell. Nobody would be able to tell. Like, and I had friends. I had good friends. I would talk with them all the time. Family and very close. All that. Nobody would be able to tell that I was literally miserable. Literally. I would be home at night like alone, and I would literally just be like just damn, like I feel so lonely. I feel so miserable. You know what I mean? Totally by
Yeah.
myself. Nobody could tell. Literally nobody could tell. And that was what was going on, you know? Yeah.
Yeah. I just, again, I just find it interesting, like the
Right.
extreme coping mechanisms. Like, I don't, like, I definitely get it. Like, listen,
Yeah.
my life is great. I have a great
Right.
job. I have a great apartment. I have great friends. I have great family. But no, I feel it too. Like, I feel very burnt out from, not that, I mean, I don't do the shut off system, but I feel very burnt out from like
From dating and stuff.
dating and
Yeah.
being single and all
Mm.
of everything that goes with it. Like,
Yeah.
so I like definitely relate. Like, you can have it all together and still really feel like you're missing something.
Right.
And like, even though you have it all together and everyone's like, oh yeah, you're such like a positive, well, I don't think anyone could call me a positive person, but
Yeah.
um no, I'm just very realistic and I like to complain. But no, I totally get
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
but yeah, no, it's I mean it's interesting that like you didn't try to like go out with more girls on Hinge or like things like that. Like
Yeah.
those are more realistic than going meaning it makes it more real than going to like a club and like talking to girls. Like I feel
100.
like
You know, I kind of want to disagree with that because I feel like in Hinge, I had a lot of conversations on Hinge, which was like cool. I just, like the volume, that was really nice. Like you could also be anywhere and just be talking to a girl, which is fun. But it was less real for me because like we would text and then I'm like, I don't know if I'm gonna meet up with this person. Is it worth the risk or like traveling? Um, so it was less real. As opposed to like at a bar, it's just natural. You just walk up to somebody, strike up a conversation. It's cool. It's chill.
yeah.
That felt more real.
When I say
Yeah.
real, I don't mean like the human interaction real. I meant more of like
Yeah.
dating, dating, real dating potential. Cuz
Yeah.
like yeah, it's fake it while it's on your phone. Like all these boys in my phone, they're just in my phone. Like they're fake until they become real. But
Right.
like on Hinge, it's like, okay, you chat and then it's like, okay, we're going on a date. And then that's like a real dating potential. Whereas like at a bar, like I mean, I guess you could ask out a girl at a bar, but
Yeah, absolutely.
it didn't
And
seem
it's a
like
lot of fun.
that's what you like were doing, like getting girls' numbers at the bar and then going on dates after.
It was too short of a time period to really like, have like good stats on that for me. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like it was happening, but then I like cut it off. It wasn't like if I was doing this for like 2 years, then I'd be like, would say with a lot more confidence what worked and what didn't. But I know that at the time I was feeling better just from doing that stuff.
Yeah.
Like it's hard. Like people in their early 20s and 30s, it's hard to not be in a relationship. Like we're human beings. We're meant to be in relationships. We're meant to have communities and people and that we care about, that we love, that we could envision building a future with. And it's painful not to have that. And it's like I feel like people don't necessarily like realize that about it's literally in your nature and your body has and your mind has cues and almost I want to say consequences for ignoring that. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, I agree with you.
Yeah. Right.
I agree. Even though I wish I didn't. I wish I didn't care.
Yeah. Yeah.
But do you have any other dating stories that you would like to share?
Not specific dating stories. I do have some advice that I want to give people though.
Okay. I also have another question. It's like
Sure.
totally irrelevant from anything else we've said. It
Sure.
was just something I picked up on that you said that I wanted to ask about.
Sure.
You said you're Bukharian.
Yeah.
It's funny because you don't give me a Bukharian vibe. You're like the
Okay.
most normal Bukharian I've ever met. Sorry if
That's
that's
kind of
offensive.
racist, Loki. Yeah.
It is racist.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Last time I talked about Bukharians on this podcast, I got yelled at for an hour on the
Really?
phone for
Why?
being racist.
Oh gosh.
By a
Yeah.
Bukharian guy who I
That's
didn't want
pretty
to
funny.
date. Um,
Yeah.
no, I wanted to ask about that.
Yeah.
Like, did you have any trouble dating because you're Bukharian?
Yeah. So that's exactly, remember when I was saying earlier, I felt like I was playing from an unfair playground in that I think a lot of people would literally just see my resume and then they would be like, no, he's Bukharian. I don't want to go out with him. And it's not necessarily even the girl. Like very often it's the parents, the rabbi who doesn't think of who maybe the rabbi is racist or maybe not, but they just don't think of the match because it's like, oh, they're Bukharian. And this is what used to happen to me a lot. This is what was crazy. I was in yeshiva, like I said, for 10 years, and it was a very long time. I would often get set up with a girl who's like a boss Juva, and there's nothing wrong with that. Absolutely nothing wrong with that. Or a girl from, a very uh, went to like not a yeshivish, not a Beis Yaakov, kind of like more of like a Kiravi type of place or whatever. And there's nothing wrong with that. Absolutely nothing wrong with that. But I would literally look at the resume sometimes and the rabbi who gave me this resume, and I was like, and the only reason they would set me up with that person is because I'm Bukharian, she's Bukharian. So whatever, just set it up. Right. And I literally would look at that and I asked like a few times, if I was Ashkenaz, would you set me up with this person? Like, do you honestly think like I've been in your for 10 years, like you're not setting me up with like a Beis Yaakov girl? Like in what world do you think like somebody from this type of like background, like why do you think this is a good match? I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that. I'm not saying a guy from Yeshiva shouldn't date a Balas Tshuva or a girl that's not from Beis Yaakov. Like, fine, go ahead, try different things, see what works. But I'm saying like the amount of times that this happened to me probably like 50% of the time where I was getting this type of resume that literally made no sense. And I know for a fact that the only reason the suggestion was made was because I'm Bukharian and this person is either Bukharian or not. They would never have made that suggestion had I been an Ashkenaz person. You know what I mean?
Wow.
So Yeah, that happened so many times. Like the prejudice is really crazy, honestly. And this is also another thing that I would say. I'm not saying that, you know, oh, there's no difference if somebody is Bukharian or Persian or Ashkenaz or whatever type of European. Like, I'm not saying like those things don't make a difference because they very well can. But the person that you're looking at, like that individual person, you don't know any of those stereotypes about that person. Like you just said, like I'm the most normal Bukharian or whatever, and like I'm
Yeah.
sure that like yeah, that like whatever that means to you, like maybe that means like I speak in a certain way or whatever. And I'm sure many people got my resume and they thought like, oh, he's Bukharian, so he must speak in a different type of way or have a totally different set of values. That doesn't represent me at all. Like I'm an individual and all these people are individuals. And it's like you can't just look at that and just decide like, based on that, like a whole slew of things. It makes no sense. And
For the
that's
record, it
yeah,
was a personality vibe.
right. I'm not
Because
judging you by the
and
way.
it's not
Yeah.
it's based off of
Right.
my own, because I've like been suggested Bukhari. I've gone out with Bukharian
Right.
guys, like I've met Bukharian guys, and it's just like
Yeah.
usually I get the vibe like stay away, like no, but you give like a
Right.
really friendly, like normal. I
Thank you.
guess that's racist to say like
Yeah.
normal,
Yeah.
normal person vibe.
I give like a more lower key vibe. I think Bukharians are very, and I'm allowed to say this because I am Bukharian, but Bukharians are very like, we're an ostentatious people. We like to be lavish and kind of like, it, very often it comes across as like loud and obnoxious, unfortunately, but it's not the intention. I think people just want to show a larger than life image, you know?
Interesting.
Yeah.
That wasn't even what I won't get into my
Yeah, you don't have to.
experiences with the Bukharian
Yeah,
guys and
sure.
my problems with them because I don't want to offend anyone.
Yeah,
But yeah, no, I just thought that was an interesting.
yeah,
I'm glad I asked because now I like understand even more. Because I
for
get
sure.
it. It must be hard
Yeah,
because like there are guys who make a really bad name for Bukharians, and like I know because I've gone out with them. So
yeah,
so
yeah.
now like I'm very scarred. Like if I get a guy's profile, immediate no. If
Right,
he
I
says
hear you.
Bukharian, immediate no.
Right.
Like, but
So
that's
I'm
from my
saying
own experiences.
100%, 100%. And I think
Yeah.
though, like that's your experience, like you're allowed to have that experience, and I'm not gonna judge you necessarily for that. I just think like as a cultural people, Jewish people can be unfortunately very tribal and just kind of make these stereotypes and
Yeah.
superficial decisions that it's just really unfortunate. And I think people are hurting others and they're hurting themselves at the end of the day, honestly. Yeah,
No, I agree. And thank you
right.
for giving me that perspective.
Sure.
So
Yeah.
maybe I would think twice if I got a guy who's Bulgarian, but we'll see.
Yeah, my point is like you can't just like put a blanket label on people and on an individual based on a cultural aspect or whatever. Like it just makes no
True.
sense, you know?
Yeah.
And you have the right to do that because you're making snap decisions or whatever. But yeah, I guess we could all benefit from being a little more open-minded.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so Gabi, should we move into our wrap up segments? You
Yeah,
mentioned you have some advice, so I guess
sure.
we can do you want to give out advice outside of our like one piece of dating advice?
No,
Maybe
so
we'll
this
give
is the one
advice
piece of
and
dating
wait.
advice.
Oh,
Yeah.
your one piece of dating. Okay.
Yeah.
So I guess we'll move into our wrap up segment.
Yeah.
Okay, so Gabi, can you give me and my listeners one piece of dating advice?
The most important advice that I could give anybody, aside from what we talked about, just being a good person, which is extremely important, the most important piece of advice I have is have a good time on dates. Plan your dates to have a good time for yourself. And of course, take the girl or the guy's input in mind, but like, do not do dates that you will be bored in. You know, don't go to hotel lounges. Don't freaking do it. Don't do that crap, that garbage. Go
It's good
to
advice.
yeah, that's great advice. Go to I always like to do. I think that I was a very good dater, and I learned this the hard way though. I always like to do at least one food thing and then something else. So we would go to a restaurant and then like the Harry Potter store or a cafe, walk in the park. You know what I mean? Like depending on what the weather is. One food thing and then something else to do. And normally I would try to get like three things instead of just two to get the impression that like a lot was going on. But my best dates were like we did four things. Like my best
Even on a
date.
first date?
Even on a first date, you should do at least two. You should do a food thing and you should do a
Really? But
non-food
what
thing.
if you hate each other?
No, but that's what I'm saying. Don't be cheap. You know, have a good time, get food. You know,
Okay.
that's
Listen,
what I
good
would say.
advice. I don't plan dates, but good
Exactly. Yeah,
advice.
it's good advice for the guys. And
Yeah.
what applies to the girls is always have fun. You know, like you should be having fun. The guy, you definitely should be having fun. Guys, plan the date to have fun. Bottom line. And you're not gonna have fun at a hotel lounge. You're gonna have fun going to a fun restaurant you've never been to. I'm not saying spend $100. You know, you could do a lot of places that cost a lot less than that. You're gonna have fun doing that and then exploring a store or a comedy show or something that you're gonna have a good time in. You know what I mean? That's how you should be planning your dates for the guys. And girls, focus on having a good time. You know, it's hard on guys. It honestly is. And I'm not saying like do anything that will make you feel unsafe, but you
Yeah.
gotta, you gotta realize it's tough for guys.
Also, girls can put in input. If a guy says an activity that you don't want to do, you can say, "Oh, actually, like I don't want to go ice skating. I don't want to go bowling." Like, make it fun for
Exactly, girls.
yourself. Yeah.
Exactly. Please do.
Yeah.
Please do.
Give it, you can give input if you don't want to.
Right. Right.
Sorry, that was my little addition. And then,
That's good.
Gabi, last but not least, what is your tagline?
Okay, I was thinking about this, and I'm just gonna go with I'm Gabi Koyenov. I'm bringing sexy back.
It's cute.
Yeah.
Well, Gabi, this was so great talking to you. I'm really happy we got a chance to do this, especially after we did your podcast. So thank you so much for coming on the podcast
Of
and
course. Yeah.
sharing all your stories and insights. And yeah.
Yeah.
And remember, guys, go listen to Gabi's podcast.
For sure. Guys, check out the Gabi Koyenov podcast anywhere you listen on YouTube, Spotify. Also, leave me glowing reviews. And the Men's Therapy Studio. Yeah, the Men's Therapy
I'll
Studio.
I'll
All right.
link everything in the episode description so
Sure.
it'll be easy for you guys to find.
Yeah.
But yeah, thank you again,
Awesome.
Gabi,
Yeah.
and Sticky Situation Nation. You'll catch me next time. Bye, everybody.
Bye.